Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is yet another vlog. I've been doing a lot of these, mainly because this is something that I can do to provide you with something to watch while I am working on getting reviews together. I've been a little bit burned out on doing reviews. I think it's one of those things where I don't know what it is. It's just been a lot of stuff has been going on up here that's just I don't know. I've just been kind of really not feeling it, and I don't want to half-ass any of that kind of content. So it's one of those things where I'm definitely gonna wait until the stars align and I'm in the right mood and I got all the energy, and I don't want to ever do a review where I'm like lethargic and just kind of just pumping one out just because. Um, Also, I'm also in the process of trying to rethink how I do reviews going forward because I feel like lately they've been too long and I've been talking about what happens in the movie way too much. So I want to rethink that and make the synopsises brief. And if there's any more details that I provide, it would be trivia or uh, parts of the film that I personally liked or didn't like, and vice versa. Because that's ultimately what you or anyone else wants or is looking forward to seeing when they check out a review. They're not looking at a review for a synopsis. And then this happens, and then this happens, and that happens. So I kind of just I want to nip that in the bud and stop doing that. And I think my reviews will be a lot shorter as a result. And I personally think they'll be stronger in terms of their overall effectiveness. Now, when it comes to this whole COPPA thing, I did a little video about it recently. I've gotten some kickback from some people. Other people either disagreed with me respectfully or nodded their head. Oh, it's one of the or they just were like, "This sucks," and I get it, and I just want to throw this out there, and I think I said it in that video. More people should be upset at YouTube because this guideline, this ruling by the FTC, it has been around since 2013. COPPA is not a new thing. It's been around since 2013. So YouTube should have had its users know about this by then, and they should have already implemented all of these changes long before they have done so. And the only reason why they're doing this is because they lost a lawsuit. They got sued, they lost $170 million, and they got caught. And now us YouTubers and content creators, we have to pay the price, and we have to lie in the bed that YouTube made for us, and it sucks, and it's bullshit. It is, but at the same time, I honestly think that YouTube is the one that is the one that shares the majority of the blame here. That being said, the FTC, I mean, this whole new ruling, this whole thing that they added to COPPA seems a little bit much to me, and I don't really see the necessity for it. Also, parents should be doing a better job policing their kids and watching what they're watching on the internet. I don't know why we have to take the fall for negligent parents, so that's another thing too. Um, but that being said, it's official. Like, this is not something that, there'll be some deal that'll be made with the FTC and YouTube and people won't have to do this. No, this is legit because YouTube just posted a video that details what's going on and gives you some steps to follow for your channels going forward. YouTube also had some more information on their Q&A or their frequently asked questions bit about this particular thing on the YouTube help section for channel owners. And I know some people are like, well, when are we going to have more details? Or when are we going to have more information? Well, YouTube has their hands tied because this is all the information that they have right now. The FTC apparently has not provided YouTube with any more information than what they have provided to the content creators. So hopefully in the future there will be more. But as of right now, even YouTube said explicitly that they don't really have any extra stuff right now. They'll gladly share it with the content creators when it's available, but for right now, this is all the details that they have when it comes to what's child friendly or what's not, or how to follow the new guidelines and so on and so forth. I feel for a lot of content creators who they make a living off of doing YouTube. I think in my last video that I did, I didn't really mention that enough, and I apologize. Uh, I focused more on the content creators that were abusing the system. There are a lot of content creators who are not doing that, who are going to be greatly affected by this. That being said, there's a lot of misinformation going on, and there's a lot of just straight up lack of information going on when it comes to discussions about COPPA and so on and so forth. You got people coming up with post-apocalyptic theories that the FTC is going to fine every single person they can $42,000. If you actually look at COPPA, the frequently asked questions page, and the details of it, it says up to $42,000. They say that people who violate this could be subject to up to a $42,000 fine. It doesn't say anything about anyone being fined $42,000 right off the bat, and that makes perfect sense. It falls in line with a lot of other things that go on with governments, entities fining people or stuff like that. And it even says explicitly that they will go. It depends on the circumstance, and if somebody's a repeat offender, they're more than likely going to raise the fine, or more than likely actually going to fine people. I would not be surprised at all if they just start off sending warnings like, hey, you need to make sure that this video is labeled correctly. Next time, we will fine you a certain amount. You need to make sure that this is correct. And I get people's concerns about the automated system that YouTube is going to be using for monitoring or tracking some of the content that's kid friendly, because these algorithms have been known to be really sketchy, especially at the start. So I can understand why people are really leery of that, and I hope YouTube reconsiders that and has an actual task force of real people involved with this, as well as an automated system. I hope they don't just give this to the automated system, because people could get fined and people could really get hurt by this. Now, that being said, I personally feel that my friends, anyone that isn't really in the 1% on YouTube is more than likely not going to be in the crosshairs of this whole crackdown by the FTC. And the reason why is any lawyer will tell you don't fine or sue people who don't really have that much income. You're not guaranteed to get that money, and more than likely, you're not going to get anything. The person will just file bankruptcy, and you'll get nothing. So it's one of those things where they usually discourage people from doing that, and more than likely, they're just going to go after the big YouTubers who make a lot of money, and they're going to go after them if they decide to not follow these new guidelines. That being said, I've done what I can to protect myself and my channel. I clicked the option that says my channel is not for kids, and I don't necessarily agree with the terminology YouTube has with this selection, where it says my channel is never for kids. Like, that's a little bit much. Like, never? Like, how can you really live up to never? because I can't actually actively control what content of mine some kid decides to watch. I can't actively control that unless the kid is banned or prevented from seeing any of my content. So that's a little I don't know about that. Then there's a lot of stuff about this that's very I don't know about that. And I get why a lot of people are very leery and worried, because trust me, I am too. This is a very new problem that YouTube is facing right now. I know, and there's another problem that other people have been talking about with YouTube. They've been saying things like, "Oh, there's this new thing where they can delete your channel if it isn't commercially viable." Folks, do your research. Um, there's nothing I hate more than fear-mongering misinformation, and that's a prime example of that. That's a policy that's been around on YouTube for a long time. It's not a new thing. It was around last year, and it was probably around the year before, or even before that. It's there for a reason, and yes, you could say it's censorship, but there are a lot of there have been a lot of YouTube channels that honestly are trash and should be taken off the platform because they're uh, racist, or just they are legitimately sexist or homophobic. Like, those are channels that should be removed, period, anyway, off the platform. I understand people like, oh, well, free speech. Well, not in something like this where you can have. It's one of those things where that's better off behind closed doors. That's better off in your clan meetings. That's better off in your meetings with more controversial friends with more controversial opinions. And there are instances where there are channels that are affected that are really free speech, and those are ones that I really feel for. And that's something that I think YouTube has really dropped the ball on. But there's also there's been a lot of channels that are just absolute garbage. So that's why that particular uh, ruling and that particular rule has been in place on YouTube for a while, so they can legally and actively clean the site, scrub the site of that kind of trash. Um, but I get why people, if they didn't know that, if they didn't know that this was nothing new, I get why people would be freaked out about it. But it isn't anything new. Uh, that being said, it's a shame that YouTube has really gone so downhill over the years and is essentially having to, in a lot of different ways, slowly kill itself. So it's something that it really sucks to see. And even though they've had that policy in place, it's something that's there because they realize that in order for the platform to survive, they have to take drastic measures with some channels, especially since the adpocalypse and everything that happened with that. So it's one of those things where they have to take those drastic measures in order to not only save the platform but to save it for other YouTubers who aren't violating those guidelines and aren't making content that is not commercially viable. And the commercially viable thing is on a whole other sort of thing. My channel's not monetized, and I am not planning on it ever being monetized, especially with this new thing with, is it kid friendly or not? Hell no, I'm not even going to go down that road. And then you have the whole thing with, monetized channels having to follow certain guidelines in order to keep monetization. Can't say this, can't say that, can't do this, otherwise you're going to lose your monetization. And it's just too many hoops to jump through. And this is another big flaming hoop that people have to jump through with this COPPA thing. And I don't want to deal with that. So I turned off my personal ads, which is an option you can do, and I'm demonetized. That's another thing. I personally feel the FTC is more than likely not going to really go after demonetized channels, because that's really defeats the purpose of the entire ruling that they set up. I know some people think otherwise, but I respectfully 100% disagree with that notion. Also, um, the FTC has not ever in the history of their existence got flagged or fined that as many people as some people think they're going to do with this whole thing. Like I said, they're more than likely going to go after people who can afford it and can actually pay the fine. And they're not more than likely not going to go after people that can't pay it. Also, the government is not a boogeyman who's always out to get you and your money 100% of the time. There are corrupt people who are in this government who probably work at the FTC, but there's also a lot of other people who are just doing their job and actually legitimately care about the people and care about doing things the right way. So it's one of those things where we'll have to wait and see. Like, I'm choosing to have an optimistic viewpoint on this because what is the point of having an apocalyptic viewpoint on this whole thing? What is the point of thinking that, oh, I'm fucked, you're fucked, everyone is fucked, the FTC is going to fuck you in the ass and it's going to fine you all? Like, what is really the point of that mindset? Especially when it doesn't tie in with history at all. Like even copyright claims by major studios. I mean, these major studios who are as money grubbing and money hungry as they come, they could have easily gotten away with fining more people for copyright infringement on YouTube, and they didn't even go that route. So why the hell would the FTC do that? I highly doubt it. The FTC doesn't have the resources. The FTC doesn't have the time. I think some people really underestimate how busy the FTC is. The FTC is the Federal Trade Commission. They're responsible for commissions of the entire United States, as well as some communications. They're not going to have as much time as you think to just screw over everybody that they possibly can with this. I mean, there's a chance that I could be wrong and the apocalyptic scenario will come true, but it's not a very high percentage of a chance. So I'm choosing to lean with history, which is on my side, that it's not going to be anywhere near as bad as some people are saying it's going to be. That being said, I did what my part to protect myself and my channel. So I deleted every single video or review that I could construe in my head as being for kids. So all of my movie reviews that were of kids movies have been deleted, and it's a necessary evil. It's something that I think sucks because there's a lot of kids films that are some of my favorite movies, but with this whole thing going on, I just don't want to take a chance. That being said, that ties into the next part of this vlog that I wanted to discuss, and it's about the new channel I started up on Bitchute. So I started up a new channel on Bitchute. There's going to be a link in the video description down below. It's for you to subscribe to and everything. I will be posting family, kids, movies reviews on that channel, as well as other experimental videos that might include footage and stuff like that. So that's where I will be posting that kind of stuff. That being said, I'm just saying this right off the bat. My experience with BitChute right now is not the best. I literally uploaded one video that's only like 4 minutes long. It's a tribute to the Goonies, and it's not processed, and it hasn't been uploaded yet, and it's been close to an hour. So that's something that I definitely feel if BitChute wants to legitimately compete with YouTube in the future, they need to get a hell of a lot better with their uploading and processing speeds, because that's honestly kind of ridiculous. It's not even that big of a file in terms of the overall gigabytes or how much space it takes up, or it's not even really HD. So why is it taking this long? I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, do you have to get to a certain level on BitChute with subscribers and content in order for you to get faster upload speeds or processing speeds? I don't know. If it's gonna be this freaking slow, like if I wake up in the morning and it's still not uploaded, like what the hell is going on with this thing? Like, there's a reason why YouTube has dominated the video sharing platform uh, for years, for decades, because they have the clout and they have the money behind it, and they have faster speeds. Your videos get processed in a good amount of time. So yeah, it's just one of those things that I'm glad there's an opportunity. I'm glad BitChute exists, but it seems like there's a lot of work to do for BitChute to really come even remotely close to being a competitor to YouTube. Vimeo is nice, but there's a data cap unless you have a pro account. And I'm not even going to bother with Dailymotion because that site's an absolute mess. So, yeah, there really isn't an alternative to YouTube that is even remotely close to having the same reach, let alone having the same accessibility or interface as YouTube does. So that's something that a lot of people are going to run into if they're going to move to BitChute. You're going to run into slower processing speed and other issues, and it sucks. It sucks that this is going on with YouTube, and this is what the reality is right now. But that's just how it is. And if YouTube goes down, I'm gonna go down with it. I'm gonna go down with the ship. I've spent too much time and effort building this channel and this community. I'm not gonna leave it or just quit just because of this whole thing. I'm just gonna rebrand and just focus on content and reviews of movies that could not even remotely be considered for kids in any way, shape, or form. Uh, Although there are some films that I have on here that are of comic book movies, but I don't really think those are going to fall in that category because that's not really fair. Same thing for something like Pokemon. Somebody was trying to tell me that the Swedish candy video I did could be considered for kids. Like, really? Like, this is candy that's for all ages that was sent to me from a gal in Sweden. I don't think it's going to be considered for a kid's audience. Also, my channel has like 0.8% of its viewers as it is watching anything that are from 13 to 17 years old. So my channel isn't even remotely even intended or for kids in the first place. So I'm going to do more content that isn't even really intended for kids, and we'll just see what happens. I mean, there's a lot of gray areas and lots of vague stuff right now that isn't clarified, that it just makes you leery about uploading, about doing content, about making videos. And I totally understand it, but you know what, I choose to believe that the worst case scenario is more than likely not going to come to pass, and I'm just going to keep plugging away. So follow me on BitChute, and hopefully I'll get something up sometime. I mean, I'm just hoping in the next like couple hours there's at least, I hope at least the video is uploaded. I mean, come on. But and as for upcoming videos and stuff like that, I am planning on sharing my thoughts on season 1 of Creepshow. I know a lot of people wondering about my thoughts on that. I actually, for the most part, enjoyed the series, and I will explain more as to why I enjoyed it for the most part in that video. I'm also going to be doing a review of Tales from the Hood, as well as the sequel. And I'm going to be doing a review and a rant on Bohemian Rhapsody, which I personally felt was incredibly overrated and honestly a really disappointing movie. And I don't think there's enough reviews out there on that film that honestly look at its historical inaccuracies in crucial plot points of the movie and really rake them over the coals. I don't think the film has gotten raked over the coals nearly enough for that. The film, almost every single major plot point in this movie is bullshit and never happened. So why aren't more people talking about that? Because it's supposed to be a biopic. It's supposed to be based on a true story, and almost every single major plot point in the movie is an absolute fantasy. And then, of course, you have how Freddie Mercury is portrayed, which is a whole other thing. So, yeah, you can definitely tell I got a lot to say about it, and I got a lot in my basement about Bohemian Rhapsody. Um, but I'll save that for that video. And when it comes to some new trailers, first I want to talk about an independent film that's coming out. It's called The Mandela Effect. It looks really interesting. It's taking the Mandela Effect, which is something that a lot of people have started to notice more, in a lot of ways, thanks to people like James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd, who did a video about the Mandela Effect and everything, where people think, the Berenstain Bears, it was spelled, Berenstain, it's Berenstain, not Berenstain, it's, or vice versa. The Mandela Effect is about, remembering things a certain way, like the Monopoly guy having a monocle, but he doesn't really have a monocle. So it's one of those theories about the existence of parallel realities and dimensions. And this trailer is working with that and taking a traditional thriller where a man, he loses his daughter, and then he starts seeing these parallel dimensions, and then his reality starts warping and bending and cracking as he's starting to see through and starting to understand, the Mandela Effect. So it's something that I think looks really interesting, and it definitely is a low budget affair, but I'm honestly really looking forward to it because the concept is just so intriguing. Another film that has a intriguing concept is Fantasy Island. Now I know this has gotten a ton of shit from people, and I get it because it is something that is very different from what people are used to when it comes to Fantasy Island. When it comes to that particular IP, they're used to lighthearted, fun, ha ha ha, But there was already a reboot of Fantasy Island, I think, in the '90s, and it didn't really do that well. I think Malcolm McDowell was the host of that reboot, and that didn't go over that well by having the same vibe. So I don't really see the problem with Blumhouse taking Fantasy Island and making it a horror film. I think that's, at least it's doing something different. It's taking an old idea and putting a new spin on it. I don't really see a problem with that. I think that's actually interesting, and I think that's an intriguing concept. I think that's a good setup for a potentially solid, really solid horror anthology series, if it's done right. That being said, you got the guy who did Truth or Dare that's directing it, which that's not really a good sign. Blumhouse is involved. The trailer, I will give the trailer this. I give it mad props for using Donaggio's score from Body Double. I give it mad props for using the Telescope track, which is the piece of music from Body Double that is just so iconic. And I was just blown away by the fact that it was even in a modern trailer. So I was like, that is so cool. So I give them mad props for using that early in the trailer. I thought their use of the Ariana Grande song was pretty clever too. But everything else looks painfully generic. So that's the problem. Everything else looks really generic and forgettable for a horror film. The concept is interesting, and that's why I'm probably going to still give the film a shot. But I'm going to go into it with extremely low expectations because I I think that there's a high percentage of a chance that this is going to fail. And the reason why is not because it's because of the concept itself, but because of the execution. This is a film that's either going to succeed or be or it's going to fail spectacularly. That there's going to be no I mean, actually, I don't even think it's going to be eh. It's either going to be good or great, or it's going to be an absolute piece of shit. There's going to be no in between with this because of the concept that they decided to go with. So it's one of those things we shall see. I don't think it's going to do that well, personally, but we'll see what happens. Then we have Scoob. I still think that title is stupid. Why Scoob? And it has an exclamation point in it. Scoob. Like, it's just like this. That's a stupid title for a movie. Like, it really is. But the title is the least of the film's problems for me. The animation, I will say this: the quality is good, but the CGI animation, just for me personally with Scooby-Doo, it just makes it feel lifeless. It makes the world feel lifeless. It makes the characters feel lifeless. There's no spirit or no genuine soul behind the film that I see in in this trailer. It just feels so artificial, and there's just something about it just doesn't vibe with me at all. Also, the voice acting is really weak, so that doesn't help. And then the plot, I don't even know what the hell is going on. Is it a prequel? Does it take place when they are all grown up? Is it all through? There's something to do with like a spaceship and there's robots? It's one of those teaser trailers that it looks nice, but on every other aspect, it's empty. It's just an empty shell for me personally. I will stick with the original Scooby-Doo cartoon or a pup named Scooby-Doo. Thank you very much. Then we have Sonic. Good old Sonic the Hedgehog. After all this time, where Paramount actually listened to the fans and took their advice and stopped production of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie and reshot 80% of the film and did a complete total redesign of the Sonic design for the movie, the time has come to finally see the fruits of their new labor, and I gotta be honest, it's surprisingly good. I liked the trailer. I thought it looked like a fun movie. Did it look like a great film? No. But it looked like a fun movie. It looked like a nice, fun popcorn entertainment flick. It gave me a 90s movie vibe. It really did. It gave me a 90s film vibe. And for a character like Sonic that is, in a lot of ways, synonymous with the 90s, that's honestly a fair fit. So Jim Carrey, he's got manic energy and looks like he's having a blast with the role. The voice actor for Sonic I liked, and the redesign was great. Uh, the time they took was worth it because he's got so much more life, he's got so much more energy, and yeah, I mean, I'll check it out just for Sonic and for Jim Carrey, yeah, as Dr. Robotnik. I'll check it out for those two things alone. And also, I don't know if I'll see it in the theater, but I'm tempted to. I'm tempted to give it my money because not because I'm a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan, because I'm really not, but to support Paramount for actually listening to the fans and listening to the audience and changing their direction and taking their time with it too. They pushed the film ahead. It was supposed to come out this year, and they pushed it to 2020, so they gave the animators and everyone else involved more time to do reshoots and to do a successful, not lazy redesign of Sonic. And yes, on one hand, they should have done that right from the start, but they admitted their mistake and they realized it and they fixed it. And they took the time needed to fix it. And that's something that should be rewarded and should be supported. And I encourage anyone that wants to see more studios actually listen to us to see that film. I really do. Not because you're a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan or anything like that. If you're a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan, then absolutely go see it. And you probably were going to see it anyway. But even if you're not, if you're a fan of studios listening to you, consider paying for a ticket, at least a matinee. I think it would definitely be worth it. It would send the right message to the Hollywood studios that, maybe we should listen to our audience more. Maybe we should stop with the focus group shit and actually listen to the online audience, which is a bigger audience than the focus groups, and is honestly more. I'm trying to think of the right word. It's more representative of the average audience as a whole in the first place. So yeah, it surprised me. It looked like fun. Then we have some other I saw another trailer for a film. It's called Don't Reply. It's like a movie where there's like some teenage girls. Uh, they got kidnapped by this hipster douchebag who locks them up in his house and dresses them up like his dead sister, who's a cheerleader. So it has them all like dye their hair blonde and dress like cheerleaders and say their name is Sadie. And it's like he's got them locked up, and it's some torture stuff, and it's supposed to be scary, but this guy's wearing a fucking catcher's mask with fucking lights and like phone cameras and shit, a GoPro on it. It looks like shit. So Don't Reply, don't watch the movie. Uh and then I also saw the trailer for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Look, I love Tom Hanks, but the film looks boring to me. I gotta be perfectly honest. It looks like a boring movie. It looks like a film that might make me feel good, but at the same time, the way I also have to be honest here. For a film about Mr. Rogers, the cinematography and the directing is very flat. From the trailers that I've seen for this, it looks almost like a TV movie. It's flat. It's really drab and dark looking. Like, where is the color? Where's the brightness for a guy who's supposed to be so bright of a personality and such a bright beacon of hope and love and compassion? Why does the film look so dark? I mean, I can't be the only one. I mean, you watch that trailer and everything just looks dark and dingy and depressing. And I blame the cinematographer and the directing. I blame the director and the cinematographer for it. They went for a more realistic thing, and I think they definitely should have gone a more fantasy route, or at least brightened up the contrast and had colors, and just that doesn't it just doesn't mesh very well when you have Tom Hanks as this kind, benevolent Mr. Rogers and this really dark, gritty, bland, drab cinematography. And the plot just doesn't interest me either. So that's the other thing. Some reporter, he's hired to do a story on Mr. Rogers, and he doesn't believe that it's worth anything, and he learns his lesson and learns how magical and amazing Mr. Rogers is, and it just doesn't really seem to me like that interesting of a movie. If it sounds like something that you're really looking forward to, be my guest, but I don't know. And also, it might just be one of those things where it's just a bad trailer. That could be it too. I will say this though, Tom Hanks is absolutely a national treasure, and he's the perfect casting. He's the perfect guy to cast to play Mr. Rogers, and I definitely would like. I definitely will eventually see it, just for Tom Hanks, but just not anytime soon though, because it's not something that I'm like really dying to see. But anyway, that's it. That's this installment of my vlogs, which I decided to put together and upload anytime I feel like it. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, things are gonna be really different from now on YouTube. It really feels like I'm gonna be walking on eggshells every time I upload a video, and that's a feeling that sucks. And I know it's a feeling that everyone's gonna be feeling for a while, and I hope things are clarified more with what's going on with COPPA and YouTube, and there's more details that are provided, and ultimately I really do hope for the best. And I know most people do too. Even the people who have the most post-apocalyptic viewpoints of what's going to go down with this, deep down I know that they also want the best possible scenario to occur for this particular situation. I do suggest you go to, I think TubeFilter has a link about COPPA, and They have a link to a petition.org thing where you can petition the FTC. And FTC also has, excuse me, the FTC also has comments open for people to ask the FTC questions and to give them suggestions on what they should do going forward with this particular ruling. And I do suggest, if that's something you're passionate about, to go to the FTC and leave those comments and let them hear your thoughts and let them know how you feel about this. But yeah, I've said more than enough, and as always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you later. See ya.